Hey Eco Explorers, this is Sara from Airlie Garden. We are currently closed to the public right now due to some impact from Hurricane Isaias, but that impact is relevant to our video today anyway. So behind me is Bradley Creek. Bradley Creek is a brackish water marsh, and we're going to be talking about how marshes are beneficial and some of the different components of our marshes. So when we have a big storm event such as a hurricane, the marsh is actually helping to protect us. The soil and the plants in the marsh are able to really soak up a lot of water. So the marsh ecosystem acts as a huge sponge, and that helps to protect us from storm surge. So storm surge is when coastal waters rise above the natural tide because of the winds and factors happening from a storm. You can see some evidence of that storm surge here, this rack line here. So all of this stuff washed up here due to storm surge from Hurricane Isaias. And if we didn't have the marsh here, that storm surge would be much higher. So for every about 2.5 miles of marsh, we're able to reduce storm surge by about 1 foot. So we're thankful to have this wonderful marsh ecosystem here to reduce our storm surge a little bit. Other than just reducing storm surge, marshes serve a lot of other functions. They support a lot of wildlife, including small, like breeding fish and migratory birds. And so a lot of the wildlife that we see throughout North Carolina has an important tie to our marsh ecosystem, and our economy has an important tie to the marsh ecosystem as well, because a lot of our fish are laying their eggs here because of all of the available food and shelter, and we depend on being able to sell those fish for our economy. One super important piece of the marsh that you can kind of see right now out in these areas where the tide has dropped, and you can see some kind of rough brown structures sticking out. Those are oyster beds, and oysters are helping to keep this ecosystem clean. So oysters are filter feeders, and so what that means is they're eating by sucking water into their bodies, and they're holding on to the little bits and pieces that are suspended in the water, and then they're expelling water out of their bodies. Those little bits and pieces that they're holding on to, some of that's going to be plankton, algae. Those are the things that the oysters want to eat. But in doing this, they're also holding on to some pollution. So after a huge storm event like a hurricane, we're going to get a decent amount of pollution washing from land into our coastal waters. And so the marsh ecosystem and the oysters are going to help to kind of filter out that pollution